You're watching Dukascopy TV and I'm Darren McDermott. Now I have Randy Grodman in the studio with me today and he is the head of International Development Opportunities, which is a consulting firm. Welcome today.
Thank you very much, Darren.
So Randy, we're going to take a look at political risk and how companies can actually protect themselves. So do tell us, how can companies protect themselves when there's a lot of political problems happening at the moment, such as what we're seeing in the Ukraine? Now, how could this have an impact on emerging market countries that are nearby?
Well, that's a very good question, very topical, and a lot of people are interested in political risk, particularly these days, in view of situations such as the Ukraine, but elsewhere as well. I can speak about one type of political risk mitigation, which is an insurance that's offered by a part of the World Bank in Washington, and that is called the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, otherwise known as MIGA. My company, IDO, is an agent for MIGA, and we work with companies, including banks, that are interested in protecting their investments in Eastern and Central Europe and other emerging markets. We've seen a market increase in requests for investments that have been made or are about to be made in Ukraine, as well as in some of the surrounding countries. And at this point in time, the World Bank's MIGA has a very high exposure in Ukraine because over the past few years there have been a lot of projects and investments that have been covered by MIGA with the insurance. And there's a limit to the capacity. So at this point in time, the World Bank has on hold any new investments in Ukraine. On the other hand, we are still covering investments in the Russian Federation and in all of the other Eastern and Central countries, Eastern and Central European countries, which would include Belarus and the neighboring countries to Ukraine. There are many companies that are concerned about energy supplies. If things get worse with the situation between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, energy supplies could be at risk in neighboring countries. One of my clients, which is a company from a Nordic country, is concerned about risk in Hungary because of the gas that's coming from the Russian Federation into Hungary. So what I wanted to make clear is that the types of risks that can be protected against using MIGA are expropriation, war, civil disturbance and terrorism, currency inconvertibility and transfer restriction, or even breach of contract when companies have contracts with government ministries.
Okay, and then what sort of companies are actually eligible?
Well, first of all, banks. Banks make two types of loans that we are involved with. One are loans to ministries of finance in emerging markets, and we have a protection called non-honoring of sovereign financial obligations. And that is specifically designed to protect banks who provide a loan to a Ministry of Finance, and the ministry will use that loan to fund projects in their country. The second type is banks making loans for project finance directly to companies who are doing anything from building roads to power plants, schools, hospitals. These types of projects in emerging markets are often funded by commercial banks. We can protect those commercial banks. We can also protect manufacturing companies who often build facilities or expand existing facilities, and they make investments of equity for that, or even intercompany loans. One of our clients, actually for more than 2 years now, is a company in Western Europe that made an intercompany loan to their subsidiary in Kiev in Ukraine, and they are protected. So I mentioned we're not open for new investments, but this investment is covered, and if there were to be a problem, this company, which happens to be a manufacturing company, would have the World Bank to basically mediate and solve problems that might arise if the government of Ukraine decided to tell them, for example, they were not allowed to bring the money back into their company headquarters in Western Europe.
Okay.
So other kinds of companies could be oil and gas companies, companies involved in the water sector, roads, ports, airports, so infrastructure, transportation sector, education, health. So there is a wide variety of companies, even hotels. Some of the World Bank MEGA clients are large hotel chains, and if they build a hotel in an emerging market or a series of hotels, and they invest to do that, we can protect them against the risks I mentioned earlier.
And Randy, just to wrap it up, it is a pretty busy election year this year for emerging market countries. So are there any other countries you will be keeping a close eye on?
Well, you're absolutely right. In the next 5 months, there are very key presidential and national elections in 5 major emerging markets. That includes India, Indonesia, South Africa in a couple of days from now, and a couple of other countries, Turkey as well. Mm-hmm. So we hope, obviously, that there will be no violence, no instability in the course of and subsequent to those elections. However, naturally, we need to keep an eye on those countries, and more importantly, the companies in the private sector who are considering investments in those countries. They need to keep a careful watch, and they need to be thinking forward to protecting themselves in the event that there are instabilities or situations where their investments could be at risk. And it is important to keep in mind that nobody knows what will happen in any country. Nobody knew that Tunisia would have this Arab Spring beginning and other countries would follow. And nobody predicted the Ukraine situation. So when we think everything is stable, and everything is stable, this is very good, but one should keep in mind, and companies need to bear in mind, that what is stable today might not be so stable tomorrow. And it does take a few months to go through the underwriting process and due diligence process for any particular investment for MEGA to cover that investment. So companies that are a little bit concerned about where there might be elections coming up, or other countries where we've seen some violence recently in certain African countries, for example. Yep. We are able to cover most African countries. There are only 3 countries where we cannot cover, and those countries are Sudan, Somalia, and Zimbabwe in the Africa region. So it is important that companies keep in mind that they might want to protect themselves for an insurance. You know, people get life insurance, but don't expect to die.
Exactly.
And don't want to die. And the same
should be for companies, of course.
Indeed.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Darren. It was a pleasure being here.
And thank you for watching Dukascopy TV. Now do stay tuned, as we have plenty more interviews heading your way. See you soon.